The Canucks come up a couple short in a 6-4 goal fest against Carolina. We're breaking it down and talking trades on Rink Wide Vancouver. And we welcome you inside the Rink Wide Vancouver studios on the night that the Carolina Hurricanes come to town and defeat the Vancouver Canucks by a score of 6-4. Hurricanes won't like giving up 4. Canucks will take the 4 goals. Yeah, it's a loss, but you know what? It was an entertaining loss, and those have been in short supply for this hockey club. Rink Wide brought to you in part by Bet365. We mentioned it the other night. We've got the trade tracker down there at the bottom of the screen. We need a goal tracker tonight, or for the first time in a long time, certainly for the home team, to get to 4 goals for the first time since a 5-4 loss to the New Jersey Devils in late January. Certainly didn't get to 5 goals at any point in February, and first couple of games here in the month of March. So, yeah, it goes into the loss column. It's 7 straight setbacks for the Vancouver Canucks. Just 2 wins in 23, but on a day where they trade away one of their veteran leaders in Tyler Myers, and perhaps it signals that there's more to come between now and the deadline, I think people can get behind this kind of game. Territorially, the underlying numbers, all Carolina. They dominated, but the home fans, the people that paid to see this, they had some fun. They had some things to cheer about. Canucks scored some goals.
Yeah, and I think if you lose like that, people will be pretty happy. You know, an entertaining hockey game. Wasn't obviously their best effort, but compared to the last 2 games, it was a hell of an effort. So we look at that and you say, there was some fight in this team, because there was a moment in this hockey team where you and I were like, start it now. Let's start the countdown now for this show, because it is completely getting away from the Vancouver Canucks. But they were able to claw their way back. Obviously, not end up tying it. They did have some chances, but an entertaining hockey game for the paying fans at Rogers Arena nonetheless.
And that trade tracker, by the way, is powered by Puckpedia. Join the Daily Faceoff crew on Friday. It all starts at 8 o'clock Pacific time. The Daily Faceoff trade deadline special. Anything that goes down in the National Hockey League, the guys at DFO, including this guy, will be part of the live stream. So check it out. For the Canucks, Philip Hronek with a nice night. Even though the Canucks give up 6, Hronek, the de facto captain, the captain in waiting, one of the true leaders on this team, he stepped up and brought it tonight. Credit to Elias Pettersson. This was a much better performance from Elias Pettersson. There was a bottom line. He shot the puck. And in fact, with the 4 minutes to go and Canucks down 1, he had the tying goal on his stick there in the slot. Wasn't able to score. Brock Besser had a chance a few minutes before that. Besser did score in this hockey game. And Nils Höglander, am I checking this right? I got to make sure that I got my score sheet there. Yeah, Nils Höglander with his first of the season. Long time coming. It's been a tough go for Höglander. The ankle surgery that kept him out of the lineup basically till Christmas. There's been nothing going. Had a couple of chances, though, the other night, so maybe that was an indication that he was getting a little bit closer. Effort is rarely an issue with Höglander, but it is a bottom-line business, and you're getting paid $3 million. At some point, you have to produce. So I'm sure it's a relief for him, and he'll feel a little bit, he would have liked to have come in a winning cause. I get that. Baby steps here, though, perhaps, and at least the goose egg is gone from the goal column for Nils Höglander.
Yeah, and obviously he has to feel good about it. If he goes the rest of the way scoring, he'll be a 20-goal scorer for this hockey team. But I think if you look at it from just his struggles, obviously in and out of the lineup, too, being healthy, scratched, he's a guy that, you know, we talk about a lot on this show. I'm sure other people do, as to what have you done for me lately? Well, lately now in this hockey game, he's looked good in the last couple, but looks can be deceiving if you don't produce, and he did produce in this hockey game. Elias Pettersson, by the way, wait, before I get to it, your stat stands out has nothing to do with this guy, and okay, there we go. Elias Pettersson went 61 minutes and 18 seconds of ice time between shots on goal. He had a couple. He had the one.
So individual ice time. We're not talking about team.
Individual ice time.
So, yeah, I mean, a guy that averages
a lot.
19 or 20 minutes, that is 3+. That checks out that he hadn't had a shot since the Olympic break. And so, you know, I mean, it's been a bit of a firestorm for him with the benching the other night and the media scrum that was heard around the world and certainly around the National Hockey League. Again, I thought he dug in. There were moments in this hockey game. He makes the play on the Höglander goal. His shot, his initial shot, breaks the defender's stick. And he stays with it. The puck comes back to him. He draws other defenders to him, slides it across, and there's Nils Höglander to pull the trigger. Look, this wasn't a banner night for Brandon Bussey, who's been one of the great stories in the National Hockey League. And there have been a lot of nights where he's picked up his Carolina teammates. They did that for him tonight because he gives up 4. And when the Canucks were pressing, like, he looked a little shaky there. There were a few moments that he didn't know where the puck was. Whatever the case, wins his 9th straight and his 25th game of the season. He is 25-3-1.
And the crazy thing is we do the insider show all the time with Dave Pagnotta. Knock, knock, knock. Jordan Binnington, like the Carolina Hurricanes are going to do something wild. It would be insane if they went and got a goalie. But I think just what you said, because when the game got tighter and things started to go a little bit wrong in front of him, are we really sure that he's going to be able to come up with that big save? And with the team that has Stanley Cup final aspirations and getting there, he may want to have a little bit more insurance at net.
We mentioned this the other day, but a teammate of Max Sassen's at Western Michigan, Ethan Frank, who signed with the Washington Capitals or re-signed with the Washington Capitals, he was on that team. Tim Washi, who has played for the Anaheim Ducks this year, he played on that team as well. So they had a bunch of guys that have made it to the show, and Brandon Bussey got his contract extension. Canes got a heck of a deal on him, but he's got some security at the big league level now. And he's settling in, as we said. He's too old to be in the running for Rookie of the Year. Some people I've seen that discussion, but he's 27 years of age. So won't be Rookie of the Year. But
I think Matthew Schaefer's got that locked.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But I think people have wondered, is he in the running? No, because he doesn't qualify. But still, a heck of a first full season in the National Hockey League for Brandon Bussey. Of course, this is a Canucks postgame stream, so we'll bring the conversation back. I wish we had a team like the Carolina Hurricanes to talk about, but we don't. Let's just do this because we do this on every program. Canucks have now played 61 games, 36-7, so as many outright losses now as they have, or twice as many outright losses as they have victories on the season. And then, of course, there's the 7 in the OTL or shootout loss category. So 18-6-7, and this home ice record just goes from bad to worse. And, of course, they're taking on 2 of the top 3 teams this week. Like, of all the teams to face in a quick 2-game homestand, you get the Dallas Stars and the Chasers, the Carolina Hurricanes, and they sit 2-3 in the National Hockey League. And, yeah, they mean business. So, Canucks were not good. We didn't like the effort. Patrick Relvin didn't like the effort against Dallas. Again, I didn't love what I saw in the first 5 minutes. Carolina scores on an early power play. The shots were 13-1 at one point, and yet the Canucks get out of the first period with a 2-1 lead. There was a goaltending change that we will talk about certainly as we move along here. But the Canucks are 6-19-5. Oh, that stings on home ice. But they're out on the road now. Don't play again until the trade deadline. Trade deadline comes your way, noon Pacific on Friday. The Canucks are in Chicago Friday night and in Winnipeg in the early game on Hockey Night in Canada. It's a 4 o'clock start. So a quick turnaround with this back-to-back as well against the Blackhawks and the Winnipeg Jets. Andrei Svechnikov opens the scoring. The Canucks take the early penalty that we mentioned. But even before that, like the first shift for the hockey game, Jordan Staal just weaves his way in, has a glorious opportunity, and then David Kampf takes a tripping penalty, puts the Canes on the power play. Svechnikov pulls the trigger, another one of these power play goals that just looks way too easy against the Vancouver Canucks, who are dead last in the National Hockey League on the penalty kill. They've now given up 54 power play goals on the season, and as we said, it got to 13-1 on the shots on goal, and I thought, like this is the response to the beatdown from the Dallas Stars. To their credit, though, the Canucks were able to slowly turn the tide. And Marco Rossi, who was noticeable in this hockey game, Rossi gets the Canucks on the board, got a fortunate bounce off Jacob Slavin, but they all count, and certainly for a guy that's looking to find a way to produce, Rossi trying the cross-crease pass to Brock Besser at the back door, and guess what? Slavin sliding, hits his stick, it goes in, and then I thought one of the better shifts of the hockey game for the Vancouver Canucks, okay, they tied the game against the run of the play. Both teams score on early power plays. And then the Canucks followed it up. And I liked the follow-up shift there. Drew O'Connor had a chance down the left wing. He stuck with it. Linus Karlsson wins a puck battle. And eventually Phil Hronek spotted for the one-timer. And so 2 goals, 44 seconds apart. And again, it made no sense. But the Vancouver Canucks found themselves, we're watching it on the live stream. Like, I like that play by Karlsson to shake off his check, gets it behind the neck. O'Connor back to Hronik, and he steps into the one-timer there. And so, yeah, first period shots were 15-7 in favor of the Carolina Hurricanes, but it was the Vancouver Canucks who had a 2-1 lead. And, dare to dream at that point if you still want to see this team find a way to pick up victories along the way. Of course, the lead didn't last long, and we've seen this all season. Quick goals in succession against the Vancouver Canucks, and that's what happened early in the second period. Sean Walker, and then the Nick Ehlers show began. Ehlers with his first of 3 seals the deal into an empty net, but had a couple of goals in the run of play as well. And after Sebastian Aho scored to make it 4-2 midway through, and we're watching Aho on the backhand, he beats Kevin Lankinen high on the glove side, and that was it. And the hook came out, and it surprised me a little bit. Look, Kevin Lankinen has not had a great season. We know that. We've discussed that. Looked like he was headed to a 7th straight loss in regulation on his own ticket. But ultimately, he doesn't take the result here because the Canucks did score enough goals to make Tuoppilo the goaltender of note. But I guess I was surprised that the hook came out midway through the second. And again, I didn't love the Aho goal either.
Yeah.
But the only reason the Hurricanes weren't up 5-0 after 10 minutes was Kevin Lankinen. I just thought, given the kind of season it's been, if they're trying to restore and rebuild this guy's confidence, and hey, again, I don't want to look like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth because I am on the record saying I want to see more Nikita Tuoppilo, but I want to see more starts from Nikita Tuoppilo. At that point, it looked like he was coming in mop-up duty and garbage time and all that kind of stuff. Again, I'm not here to defend Kevin Lankinen because he hasn't been good enough for the Vancouver Canucks, but I was surprised, given the circumstances, that the hook came out.
Yeah, it was just weird. 4 goals on 22 shots, but the only reason, like you said, they were in that hockey game at all was because of Kevin Lankinen. Maybe it's time, like you mentioned, to give Nikita Tuoppilo a decent run here. They're going to play back-to-back, so they're both going to play at some point on this weekend. But I don't know, Kevin Lankinen played extremely well under crazy circumstances and got that extension here in Vancouver. I'm not entirely sure he's a starting goalie in the National Hockey League. And I think that, he's a great backup. I think that he's definitely very serviceable. But when you put a big workload in front of Kevin Lankinen, and we've seen that this season, and obviously this season has gone the way it's gone. He didn't get any help in front of him. There was some off-the-ice stuff, and obviously he's okay and back now with the team. Hopefully everything's okay that he's back now with the team. But I'm not entirely convinced that you can go into it and, be like Kevin Lankinen's going to be our starter. And even next season, you don't know the future of Thatcher Demko. Won't really know how he's going to react and come back after his hip surgery. So is this a guy that you really think you can turn to night in and night out? So it was really weird. I'm not entirely sure why the pull came, or maybe obviously, we'll get to Adam Foote's thoughts and we'll hear about it, but it was just weird.
Come on a trip down memory lane with me here. Do you remember at the start of the season this notion that the Canucks maybe had the best 1-2 punch in goal in the National Hockey League?
Yeah.
And of course, one guy's had surgery. One guy can't stop nearly enough pucks. And maybe their most trustworthy goaltender is the guy that's number 3 on the depth chart. Although Adam Foote makes his decision, he makes the hook. 3rd time this season that Lankinen has been pulled from a hockey game.
It didn't start too well for Tuoppilo.
And Tuoppilo comes in and just whiffs on Nick Ehlers' second of the night, short side. That one can't go in.
No.
And so, again, if the Canucks thought that there was going to be a comeback and they still had a chance to win this hockey game, it looked like that hope was out the window at 5-2. Again, they didn't go quietly, and so I do want to give them credit on one of the rare nights where they did have some pushback. They had some resistance. They looked interested in clawing their way back in this hockey game. But, Tuoppilo did make some saves, but he didn't make the one that he needed to, and that was to sort of restore the faith in Adam Foote that he had made the right decision by making the goaltending switch there. Hey, we want to hear from you. Fully interactive here on Rink Wide always, and we'll be right down to the wire through the final 21 games that the Vancouver Canucks play. So regardless where they sit in the standings, how many wins or losses they have, you can count on us. We will be here, or will be with me most nights. You'll be here on the weekend as well through the trade deadline. But we want to hear from you, and we give you the floor and the platform here with a super chat. You make a small donation or a donation that you feel is appropriate to the BC Mental Health Foundation. They are our charity partner again this season, and they're changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. And they're doing it because you are bringing it with your super chats. And we've already got a couple here, and we'd love some more. 7-7 says, I was about to tune out again when it was 5-2, but they finally had no quit and an exciting end. And we said, I think fans will sign up for that. Jaden says, more of this, please. Even though they lost, still fun. Like, it's been a while since we've seen those sorts of comments in our inbox. In fact, you may have to go back to that night that they lost 5-4 to the New Jersey Devils, and Ziboom scored a nice goal, and the fact that they scored 4 goals. It's been a while, so it's nice to see some of that here in our inbox. Another one in the chat from Walk says, finally made a rebuilding move and have an awesome rebuilding game. Sign me up for more of this. And, of course, alluding to the Tyler Myers trade that started the day, and we certainly will talk about that. And you're going to hear from Tyler Myers, who conducted a Zoom with the Dallas Stars media, but a couple of Vancouver media, myself included, jumped on it, and I have a couple of clips from Tyler Myers, so we'll get to that a little bit later on. Just want to work through the hockey game here, because at 5-2, again, the Canucks look dead in the water, and you wondered, were they going to go quietly? Were they going to roll over? And then they benefited from a couple of power plays. In fact, at 5-on-3 for a minute and 56, so they got the power play, and off the ensuing face-off, a tripping call, and the Canes puts a second guy in the box, and the Canucks went to work. And we talked about Marco Rossi. Got a fortunate bounce on the first one, trying to slide a pass through the blue paint to Brock Besser. Well, second time it worked the way that he had set it up. I liked his patience there. The pass that he was looking for wasn't there the first time, so he plays it back to Phil Hronek, gets the Canes to sort of pull out a position a little bit with their defensive formation, back to Rossi down low, and this time zips it across, and there was Brock in the back door for his 13th goal of the season. So 5-3 and more power play time. Weren't able to do anything with it the rest of the second period, but they still had power play time to start the third, and really didn't do much with that early in the third. And I kind of thought, all right, then it's not going to happen for them. But again, they just kind of stuck with it, chipping away. There were some moments in this hockey game when David Camp was able to somehow miraculously get his stick on the pile. Like Jordan Stahl bats that puck out of the air,
that's
heading for the
curtains.
empty net.
Yeah.
And David Camp, his defensive play of the season, definitely worth a second-round pick. When you see a guy make that kind, right? Yeah, that's got to boost his trade value. Send that highlight around. GMs around the league should wake up to that clip.
Send another
in their
memo
inbox.
out.
And then it was Nils Höglander scoring 6.5 minutes into the third period. At that point, it's 5-4. A lot of time left, and the Canucks had some opportunities. When we talk about some pushback and a little bit of bite, want to single out DPD, Elias Pettersson, the massive hit on Jaden Chatfield, the former Canuck, along the right boards in the third period there. Chatfield was slow to get up because Petey got all of him there. And in the second period, there's something about Andrei Svechnikov that the Canucks aren't alone. Like when I watch Carolina games, every team just seems to be chasing this guy around the ice, and he gets away. Remember the hit in Carolina on Hronek? People here thought it was going to be suspendable. Nothing happened, but he got the elbow up there. He crosses the line. He's a big dude, but DPD was having none of it after the whistle there. And so I want to see more of that. Like for DPD, there's 21 games to go. If you're going to continue your development, you've got Zibulium, you've got Tom Verlander. They're going to handle the offensive side of things. They're going to lug the puck and whatever. And I would say the same thing to Victor Mancini, who had a rough go in his return to the National Hockey League tonight. But lean into your size. Try to carve out a role as a more physical guy, one on the left side, one on the right side. And I thought this was a big step forward for DPD. I want to see more of this down the stretch.
I don't want to throw comparisons out there or put this name out there, but Matthias Ohlund, the way that he played the game, very tough to play against, physical, used his body to his advantage, and obviously it's a Swedish thing, but you know what I'm saying? Like just the type of player, the type of build that he has. Ohlund wasn't the craziest guy gifted offensively, but could put the puck in the net. DPD's got a great shot if and when he needs to use it, but you're right. Zivulium, Tom Willander, they're going to handle the offense. So you be that 3-4 defenseman, shutdown defenseman, be an absolute ass to play against. Guys like Svechnikov will take stupid penalties and do things like that. You're going to have a very long career here.
Finish every check.
Yeah. Hit everything that moves.
And
Absolutely.
you heard it. I mean, the roar. Again, this fan base has had nothing to roar about almost all season, but late in the game that, the Canucks are trying to come back in, and the big hit, and you could hear it. You and I watching it in studio, you could hear it. People reacted. That's what they want to see. Fans in every market will respond to the physical guy that is the hammer, not the nail. And I really do, especially on this team and this roster, man, is there an opportunity for DPD to up sort of his value in all of this by continuing to play that physical style. Let's get to the 3 stars in this hockey game. 3 stars on Rink Wide, always brought to you by Greta. Greta Bar, terrific spot to watch games of all sorts, not just hockey. March Madness just around the corner, baseball season. In fact, the World Baseball Classic is underway. You name it, if a game is on, it's going to be on one of the many big screens at Greta. They've got game day food and drink specials, a sensational street food menu, and if that's not enough, the old school arcade games just add to the atmosphere. Greta Bar, the place to be, 50 West Cordova, Greta Bar. Let the games begin. This game is over. Carolina beats the Vancouver Canucks 6-4, but lots of candidates for the stars of the show. Easy pick is number 1. And the 3 stars in the building, Nick Ehlers, Philip Hronik, and the broadcast went with Seth Jarvis. We went with Sebastian Aho. Jarvis had a couple of assists, 2 primary assists, so certainly a worthy candidate. Aho with the backhander that ended the night for Lankinen, also had an assist on the empty netter, so a 2-point night for Sebastian Aho, and up to 60 points now on the season. And that's what this guy does. He's the 3rd star in our books, and yet he's sort of the talking point where he plays in Carolina, and not a guy that's in it for himself, doesn't have the huge profile, and yet is one of the most consistent point producers, and just an unheralded star in the National Hockey League. I know you and I were having this discussion as we watched the game, fill in the blank. Sebastian Aho is a top player in the National Hockey League, and sort of the consensus here with producer Jacob was top 20, certainly top 25.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And yet, of those 25, maybe the guy that the fewest people in hockey talk about.
Well, and it's also funny because his countryman, Sasha Barkov, is known as one of the most underrated players in the National Hockey League. And, Aho is kind of that, right? You don't notice him too much because you don't hear about him too much, but he's just the 4th Finnish-born player to have 8 60-point seasons. Curry, Solani, Mikko Rantanen, and Aho. That is pretty good company. Pretty good. Yeah, it's ridiculous company to keep, but also for him, it's just all he does is produce. That's all he's ever done, is be able to put the puck in the net or find someone that can, and consistently, night in and night out, he's one of their best players on the ice. So good for him. It's always exciting to get to watch him, but you're right. Not a lot of people watch and pay attention to the Carolina Hurricanes games, and obviously it's where they are, and it's unfortunate for him, but he is definitely a star in this league.
The Vancouver Canucks played without Evander Kane. We heard nothing from Adam Foote this morning. It was Patrick Alvin that mentioned he was a game-time decision with an illness. Of course, his name in trade rumors forever, and this is it. The Canucks don't play now until after the trade deadline. So have we seen the last of Evander Kane? Clearly, it hasn't been as easy as the Canucks had hoped to peddle him. We're starting to see trade action pick up around the National Hockey League. Saw a couple on Tuesday night and a bunch more here on Wednesday, and yet all these pending UFAs remain on the Vancouver Canucks roster, and Evander Kane didn't even play in this hockey game. So if there was a team that wanted to see him one more time or was on the fence, doesn't get a chance to make a final impression. And in fact, one of the guys that benefited, Nils Höglander. Now, Kane was already moved off that line at practice yesterday, so I think he was going to play on a line with DeBrusk and David Kampf anyhow. But Evander Kane, who had scored 2 of the Canucks' 4 goals out of the Olympic break, half the offense out of the Olympic break. Now they've doubled their offensive total from those first 3 games with this one tonight. But Evander Kane illness? Do we take the Canucks at face value? Was this any sort of trade related move? What do we know? What do we guess?
I think we can. Evander wasn't feeling well and didn't play in this hockey game. It's going to be really fascinating to see what happens. I mean, we'll do the trade stuff in a little bit, but it is going to be interesting the next 48 hours here. You look at the Toronto Maple Leafs and who they held out of the hockey game. They had 3 players out of the lineup, so obviously things were imminent there. I was convinced that Connor Garland wasn't going to play in this hockey game for a while because his name was bandied about yesterday. And with the New York Islanders, obviously nothing close there. Boston Bruins obviously did re-engage, but I think that there's a ton of interest right now in Connor Garland. And I think if you're the Vancouver Canucks, you're doing whatever you can to try and move that hockey player. But beyond that, like we always talked about the UFAs, which one of them, if any, are going to get moved here in the next 48 hours?
Yeah, another quiet night for Connor Garland. 14 minutes and 47 seconds of ice time. Didn't have a shot on goal, a couple of hits. And a scary moment if he is, in fact, on the trade block and being coveted by other teams. Took a hard hit from Sean Walker early in the second period. Looked like it was his arm or his wrist that kind of got caught under him.
Went to the room for a bit.
Went to the room, but he did return. He finished the hockey game, so I'm assuming that he's going to be okay there. But, again, this is why teams elect to hold players out a game or two before the trade deadline. So the Canucks, outside of Kane, and obviously they didn't have to do the dance with Tyler Myers because they had already traded him this morning. But the guys that are on the block, and there are a lot of them, I guess you can't sit them all. Somebody has to suit up and play for this hockey club. So it's interesting now. But again, they don't play between now and the deadline. They do play on Friday night. So we'll see who's in uniform, who's available to Adam Foote when the Canucks take on the Blackhawks. 5:30 start from the Windy City on Friday night. Let's get to the stat that stands out. We always like to look at the stats from all of these hockey games. We've got a few more super chats that we'll get to as well. But the stat that stands out tonight is that Nikita Tolopilo gets tagged with the loss in this hockey game despite giving up just a goal.
Yeah.
He said it was a moldy one, didn't like it. I'm sure he didn't like it either. And then they pull him. There was a late Teddy Bluger penalty, and that sort of ate into the Canucks' opportunity to get the goaltender out and try to tie the game with the extra attacker. But Ehlers seals the deal, the hat trick into the empty net. So Tolopilo not on the hook for that one. But sometimes hockey can be a cruel game. Just the situation you inherit. A 4-2 game at the time. Then it got 5-2, and that Ehlers 5-2 goal turns out to be the game winner. So that is on Nikita Tolopilo's record, and it spares Kevin Lankinen from a 7th straight loss.
Good for Kevin Lankinen, but again, like we said, Nikita Tolopilo, I don't think that he was expected. I mean, you always got to be ready to come into this hockey game, but I think even when that 4th goal went in, Adam Foote looks down the bench and he goes, "Nikita, you're going in." He's, "What? Really? Like, are you kidding me?"
I just gave up 6 the other night.
I don't have any time to warm up, or you obviously don't, but you're supposed to be ready to go. But obviously on that first one, he definitely wasn't ready to go, and it was an unfortunate bounce for him that went past him. But look, I, like you, on the record saying I want to see more of him. You have to know what you have. He's a big man, and you hope that he can, grow into becoming an everyday NHLer here, or at least become an asset if that's something that the Canucks desire.
A couple other stats that jumped out at me. The Canucks have now given up 5 or more in 14 of their 25 games since Christmas. So considerably more than half the games that they have played since the Christmas break. They're spotting their opponents 5 or more, and this team's just not good enough offensively, not talented enough, chasing so many games. They tried hard, and the effort was there, and we salute them for that. But not often are they going to come all the way back and get points out of a hockey game when they're giving up 5 and 6 on the regular. The other thing is they did score twice on the power play, and that's the 7th time this season that they have scored multiple power play goals in a game, but the first since a January 2nd game against the Seattle Kraken. So it's been a while since the Canucks have potted a pair with the man advantage, but the first goal, the Rossi goal, the fortunate bounce, and then Brock Besser, 5-on-3. I'm going to have to double check, but I believe that's the first 5-on-3 goal that the Canucks have scored all season long as well.
And the Rossi goal, might have been a fluke goal, but that power play for that short amount of time, that 7, 8, 9 seconds that it took them to get the puck to Rossi before it went in, was as good as it's looked in I can't even tell you how many games, Jeff. The puck was on the stick of one player and off it in less than a second, and that's the movement that they need to do, or at least they need to try and do. And almost every player touched it before Rossi ended up banking it in off Slavin.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny because I remember we talked about it the other night, the first power play they had against the Stars. And again, they got buried by the Stars. So I'm not nitpicking and trying to find silver linings from that game and throw that one out the window. But we said at the time, their first power play that night, they were buzzing around. And so maybe it was just a matter of time here before they started to sort things out. I will say this, since the Olympic break, I know that Daniel and Henrik have been involved more on the power play a lot of times before practices. They'll come out with their power play units, and the Twins have really been involved. And one of the things the Twins have been imploring this group to do with Marco Rossi now is, from the defenseman, generally Hronek, get it down low and have the guy that takes the pass down low then start to come up the side boards. And I think that's an attempt to get the defense to shift a little bit and pull them out of position. And so, just continue to watch. If that's a maneuver that the Canucks use, it's got the fingerprints of Daniel and Henrik all over it.
Especially because your defenseman probably is the guy that has one of, if not the best vision, because he's going to be the one that's surveying everything. But the next guy that gets the puck is usually one of your more talented players or playmakers. So hopefully Rossi, ends up being that player. He's a guy that can put points up in the National Hockey League, but a guy that can get the puck down low, be able to swing it around and open up and survey and where things need to go. So I think that's a good position for him. I don't think that he's got a booming shot. You can't put him in the bumper. That's not really the spot for him. And you don't want to put him on, his off wing just for one-timers. I don't think that is a good use for him. But you're right. Get the puck down low, have him skate around with it, be able to control, assess, and try and tee up Elias Pettersson for a one-timer, or try and do something like that.
Dare to dream.
Yeah.
A couple of super chats that I want to get to. Super chat from Free Petey says, the Blues won. We, the Canucks, lost. Stars played to their salaries. Talking about star players, not the Dallas Stars. They're playing to their salaries, though, with 10 straight wins after beating Calgary last night. But Free Petey says, Blues won, Canucks lost, Stars playing up to their salaries. That's a W in my book. Yeah, I mean, that sort of echoes some of the earlier ones that people see a game and they think, all right, I can live with this. Canucks aren't going to win many games down the stretch. There's still 21 to go. They'll find a way to grind out a couple somewhere, somehow. They got the 8-game homestand coming up after this quick 2-game road trip. But even if they lose, the effort, play to the final buzzer, make it interesting, look interested, give a damn, all those types of things. I think you can check off the box. A lot of those boxes in this hockey game tonight. But don't get too excited. Now, again, Carolina, one of the top teams in the National Hockey League, top team in the Eastern Conference. They mean business. The underlying numbers, they absolutely crushed the Canucks. At 5-on-5, now both teams end up scoring 2 power play goals. So 5-on-5, Carolina controlled 64% of all shot attempts. The scoring chances were 29-11 in favor of the Canes. The high dangers were 12-3. And so that gives you a better sense of territorially how it was going. And again, the Canucks had the 2-1 lead, and that sort of served as a wake-up call for a Carolina team that came in here in a bit of a foul mood. They don't lose often, but they lost in Seattle the other night. Certainly didn't, at 2-1, they didn't want to have that on their record, that back-to-back losses, including one to the worst team in the National Hockey League. But games played on the ice, the numbers are drawn from the way the game is played.
Yeah.
Territorially, it was all Carolina, but at the end of the night, they had to sweat it out to get a 6-4 victory. Canucks fan, 9420. The tank keeps rolling. Yes, it does. And in fact, as Free Petey pointed out, this was a good night for the Vancouver Canucks because the St. Louis Blues, with a 3-2 win in Seattle, jumped to 55 points. They leapfrogged the New York Rangers. So now the Rangers are the team ahead of the Vancouver Canucks, but they're 11 points clear. So the gap actually grew for the Vancouver Canucks as St. Louis moved past the New York Rangers. But how about that? We are barely a year removed from the JT Miller to the New York Rangers trade. The Rangers are 31st of the National Hockey League. The Canucks are 32nd. Miller's on IR right now. Philip Hedl, of course, has spent most of the season on IR. Victor Mancini got called up. He was on the ice for 3 of the first 5 Carolina goals in this hockey game and
Yikes.
didn't play an awful lot. But, yeah, there's some work to do at the NHL level there. So just wild to think that these teams hooked up on this massive trade just over a year ago. And here they are, the basement dwellers in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, it's wild to see that. And when you really go down and look at it and point out all the characters involved, and obviously, the whole Elias Pettersson thing and the season that he's had as well. Tank keeps on rolling, you're right, but you 11 points clear. Canucks, they're not good enough to make up ground. So here's what you need to do. You're very likely going to finish in the bottom 3. You're probably going to finish the worst team in the league. So that 26% chance, whatever you have, whatever rabbit's foot, whatever good luck charm, whatever you need to rub or keep in your pocket or do whatever, because that is probably going to be one of, if not the most important days in the franchise's history to see if they can get that number 1 overall pick.
Now, we should note, and the Canucks play the Blackhawks on Friday, but the bottom 5 teams in the league, the Blackhawks, the Flames, the Blues, the Rangers, and the Canucks. Canucks peddled Tyler Myers. Flames, Mackenzie Weegar, Colton Parayko, gone. Chicago's been busy this week offloading an already pretty thin roster.
Trocheck's probably going to get traded.
Trocheck. So, they're all trying hard to get to the bottom, but right now the Canucks have built themselves what feels like an insurmountable lead. Like, even if the Rangers pick up 6 points to get to 60 on the season, the Canucks need 17 points from their final 21 games.
Not going to happen.
To get to 60 points.
It's not going to happen. I set that number at 9.5 over their final 23, and you looked at me and you were like, what?
I fell off my chair.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm injured. All right. This one comes from Susie. It's a super chat, and we appreciate the contribution to the BC Mental Health Foundation. Who's your favorite Canucks player of all time?
Pavel Bure for me. That's kind of my era. I remember going to a playoff game at the Pacific Coliseum. Playoff game, it was Canucks and the Flames. That year was 94. And Bure was Pavel Bure. And that got me super excited about the Vancouver Canucks and just his, obviously, the Russian rocket, the electricity that he played with. And the guy not only played really well here, even when he got traded, went away, still produced in Florida, was an insanely good hockey player. So mine would have to be Pavel Bure.
I'm going to say my first favorite Canuck was probably Stan Smeel. I loved how hard he competed, and when we talked about DPD earlier, like just never missed an opportunity to finish a check, but he had enough skill to go along and played on some bad Canuck teams, but was still there as the scoring leader, the penalty minute guy. Never took a shift or a night off. So everybody loved the Steamer. And then, of course, Trevor Linden comes along, and he's sort of the next face of the franchise. Richard Brodeur, I guess, a huge part of the run in 1982, he lived a couple of blocks away from us. My brother used to babysit for his kids on the nights of the run to the final in 82, game nights, and Richard Brodeur and his wife would go to the games, and somebody had to look after the kids, and my brother did some babysitting for the Brodeurs. So it kind of felt like got to know him, and a goaltender of a scrappy team that got to the Stanley Cup final. So certainly liked Richard Brodeur. As I started to cover the Canucks, your view of favorite players changes a little bit. I mean, of course, Bure, again, I was fortunate enough to be there at that debut against Winnipeg. It was breathtaking. It was just unlike anything anybody had ever seen. Completely mesmerizing. There's been a bunch. And then when you get into this job, and again, you sort of park your fandom a little bit, but there are still guys that you can't help but cheer for, like Marcus Naslund and the things that he did when he was at his height, that wrist shot, just his clinical finishing ability.
Daniel Henrik-Sedin were just incredible to watch.
Getting to them. And my time covering sort of has mirrored. I was there in Boston the day that they were drafted, and from that point forward, to watch the evolution, the struggles early, and then to become league leaders and Hall of Famers, incredible stuff, and the people that they are. Individually, like a guy like Alex Burrows, who I felt like I got to know pretty well covering the Canucks through the height of the 2011 run. Brendan Morrison was always a terrific guy to deal with as well. And there have been lots of guys. I don't want to single out and feel like I'm missing a bunch. But, to narrow it down to one is difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, there have been a lot of pretty good, despite the lack of ultimate team success. There have been lots of good guys and lots of really good players that have come through Vancouver. And one of them no longer plays for the Vancouver Canucks, and that is Tyler Myers, who was traded away this morning in what was a true rebuild kind of trade. It was a guy with a year left on his contract who, even weeks ago, we all thought, he's not even going to entertain the idea of a trade. And I'm so glad that he used his no-trade clause and the powers that come with it to handpick a legit Stanley Cup contender. And he played in a good Winnipeg team that got to the Western Final against Vegas. Played on a good Canucks team a couple years ago. But this is a different beast. The Dallas Stars have won 10 in a row. The Vancouver Canucks have 10 wins in their last 42 games. Like, Tyler Myers is jumping in to an incredible situation. Oh. And I wonder, as he pondered his future and the Stars came through here the other night and rolled, the Canucks, I wonder if he's starting to picture himself and thinking, he's not going to be asked to do an awful lot. He'll be a 5-6. I think he'll be a third pair guy that will be asked to do some penalty killing. And they've got Miro Heiskanen and Thomas Harley and Esa Lindell. Like, those guys are all horses. They log a bunch of ice time. There won't be a bunch of ice time to go around. But terrific in the room, a great teammate who's just jumping into a situation that is going to make it awfully easy, I think, for Tyler Myers to slide right in there and be a part to help the Dallas Stars. And for him, he's hoping that he helps them win a Stanley Cup.
Will be the first Texas native to suit up for the Stars.
Yeah, I
read that.
And he's going to wear 57.
Yeah, and look, I think that Tyler Myers is going to go to that Dallas Stars team after watching them wallop the Canucks the other night and being like, that's where I want to go. If I'm going to lift, that's the place that I'm going. Great place for him and his family. Obviously, he has family still in that area. But I think the biggest thing is the on-the-ice stuff. Like you mentioned, those horses that they have in front of them, the Miro Heiskanen, the Lindells, the other players that are there, they're going to eat up those big minutes. Tyler Myers might play 12 minutes a night. Tyler Myers might play less than that. And that is perfect for Tyler Myers in a role where 5'6" defenseman, and you're going to be asked to kill penalties. You know your role. You don't have to do anything more than that. And you just go crush people. And that's what they're going to want him to do in the Stanley Cup playoffs when things are going to get wild. Like, things are going to get tough. You're going to play the Minnesota Wild, and you have to play the Colorado Avalanche just to get through into the Western Final. Like, those are teams you're going to have to try and go through, right? So it's going to be tough. It's going to be a battle. And, Tyler Myers is a guy that when we've seen when he's on, he is a very, very difficult player to play against.
Yeah, and he's now in the same division as Quinn Hughes,
yep.
And those teams are going to be battling. And you mentioned Colorado. If he plays Friday night, it's a heavyweight showdown. Yeah. Colorado in Dallas, that could be the game.
And Colorado's going to do something between now and Friday night, too.
Well, and they picked up Nick Blankenberg earlier. That's a depth move, guy. But again, I'm with you. Like, it's going to be fascinating to see how the superpowers sort of react to what the other teams are doing here in and around the trade deadline. But let's hear from Tyler Myers. He did a Zoom call with Dallas media earlier today and was asked about the highs, the lows, the ups and the downs of 7 years here as a member of the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, I mean, there were different times where things weren't going very well, and then there were times where things were going very well. You learn pretty quick in this league that things can change fast one way or the other. And, just some of the things that stand out, one thing in particular is the season a couple years ago. I thought we had a team that could really do some damage, and that's how tight the league is. It's tough to win, and you have to come in making sure you're ready each and every night. And things aren't going well right now for the team here, and which leads to situations like this. And and it's in our minds, we feel very fortunate to be able to be given this opportunity, given the situation, what I was in here in Vancouver this year. It's a great group of guys, wish nothing but the best for them. And I'm sure I'll keep in touch. But it's we look at it as it's a good time to move on.
It's a good time to move on. Yes. Yes, it is.
Well, I mean, also saying feel very fortunate to have the opportunity. And I think that also means that he did flex his no trade clause and whatever and said, I'm only going here. But still, the Canucks had to go and do the work to try and make the trade happen, and Dallas Stars had to want to acquire him. So you can see him feeling a little sentimental about that, obviously. There are guys that he's going to miss for sure. That room is going to miss those guys. It's filled with young players that look for veteran leadership. But you're right. Time to move on. Time to go and try and play for a Stanley Cup. And, obviously has a lot bigger things in sight than having to worry about this team now for the rest of this hockey season.
He did mention that it wasn't just the Detroit Red Wings, that there were other teams, and ultimately Dallas came to the fore. And at that point, he and his wife, for family reasons, well documented, as you said, Texas native, family down there. Plus, again, the wins and losses. The Stars were an attractive landing spot for him, and so he is now a member of the Dallas Stars. It's been a strange week, obviously, since the Olympic break held out. The game against Winnipeg last week, where it sort of came late in the afternoon, and from that point forward, didn't play again. So he hasn't played since before the Olympic break. But has practiced, and as we saw, took warm-up skates for 3 times there before the trade went down. So here was Tyler Myers. I had a chance. I just asked him about sort of being in limbo here for the last week and how bizarre ultimately it was, and how ready is he if he gets the call to go against Colorado on Friday night.
Yeah, I feel ready. I've been working hard to stay in it, stay in shape. Skating hard, obviously with the guys here. And like you said, a little bit of a weird situation. I'd be lying if I didn't say it was pretty strange. But, it's just how things played out, given, the situation we were in and, the no move and everything, giving us that opportunity to take a little time. So it was definitely a little weird, but gave us a chance to, say goodbye to some guys, which I know some guys don't get that opportunity. So that was nice. And, as far as not playing for a while, feel good physically, mentally. So not too worried about that. Excited to jump right into it.
Fresh and ready. It's like a pizza. He's good to go on Friday night. If but again, hasn't played since before the Olympics, and now you got the Colorado Avalanche bearing down on you. Could be a challenge, but also you'd think he'd be fired up for his debut with his new team. Again, I salute Tyler Myers. Was a terrific dude to deal with. You heard others say didn't seem to have a bad day at the rink. And he always, to me, he kind of struck the perfect balance of understanding the seriousness of the results and what they mean to the fan base here. Like, he never tried to slough off all the losing. And even in those clips, there was almost always a moment in every scrum where he would laugh at something he said or one of the questions that was asked. Like there was a little bit of levity there that reminded you, it is a game ultimately. It means the world to so many fans, and they're paid a ton and it's big business, but it is a game at the end of the day. He just always seemed to have that perspective, and maybe that comes from having a child that had some special needs early on, but it sounds like his child is in a good spot. He did say on the Zoom that the family, and this happens so often in hockey, family's going to stay here through the school year in Vancouver, and then they'll join him because he's got the year left on his contract next year, so a summer in Kelowna, and then they'll set up shop next year down in the Lone Star State. But he also said that he'll take a look at the schedule and find lots of opportunities for the fam to come down and join him in Dallas.
Well, especially if there's a long playoff run. I covered Tyler Myers first in that series, the Vegas-Winnipeg series, the conference final that they lost to when he played for the Winnipeg Jets. And yeah, just a great dude to deal with, obviously. And then getting traded here, and then people expecting a lot of him. And then the season that he had, and then how he was able to completely turn around from what everyone thought that he was going to be, a complete bust. And he had that amazing contract year where he played so well and completely changed his outlook and how people looked at him. And then obviously a couple of years later, you have this season that you're having right now, and things aren't going well for anybody on that team, and obviously a tough spot for Tyler Myers. But look, again, like I said, he's going to go to a team with Stanley Cup aspirations. He's not going to have to be the guy or even a guy. He just has to go there and do a job. And his job is to honestly crush people, kill penalties, and get the puck out of the zone. And I think that he'll be able to do that with a tremendous amount of success.
Michael in the chat says, when Myers is done playing, he's not going to be Ring of Honor, but he will be Streets Won't Forget.
You might have a front office job here.
And honestly, that would not surprise me. In fact, I thought I as this played out over the last week, I wasn't surprised that ultimately he elected to move on. But for the longest time, I thought he would play out his contract here. Thought maybe next year he would even become a sort of seventh defenseman that may not play every game, all sort of working towards a job, whether it's in the front office or player development like the Twins, whatever the case. And that may still happen here when all is said and done. But for now, best of luck to Tyler Myers and his family as he's off to Dallas for a new adventure. This all on a day and night where the Canucks fall 6-4 to the Carolina Hurricanes. We're going to hear from Adam Foote momentarily, and I am curious to get his thoughts on the hockey game. And, of course, now that there won't be a game until after the trade deadline, I wonder if his coaching philosophy changes at all. I don't know how much pressure there's been on Adam Foote to keep Evander Kane and David Kampf in the lineup on a nightly basis as they've tried to build the trade market for these guys. But the Canucks owe Evander Kane and David Kampf nothing other than their salaries on payday. If they're still here after the trade deadline, like David Kampf cannot continue to play ahead of Aatu Ratu. If this team is true in its intentions to rebuild, you've got to get Aatu Ratu back in the lineup. Max Sasson did play because Kane didn't. It was the first time since the game in Vegas, so Sasson hadn't played since the Olympic break. But I truly believe this, that it should be Ratu and Sasson and whoever else they want to get a look at from Abbotsford over Kampf and Kane if those guys are here through the trade deadline. And honestly, if they don't play much down the stretch, so be it. Like we said, it's pretty clear that right now they're not lining up around the block, other teams, to get their hands on these guys. So sort of bracing for one or both of them to still be here. I still think teams are missing out if somebody doesn't jump on Teddy Bluger. I just think that there's enough there in Teddy Bluger's game that he can help teams that are heading to the playoffs. So
I think that Bluger and Garland have more of a chance to be traded than Kane and Kampf.
And it was interesting that Patrick Alvin floated the notion again that we've seen around the National Hockey League, and David Kampf, an example of it in November, where contracts are terminated and guys are walking away from what's left on their contracts to go to other teams, but it gets really complicated if Evander Kane wants to go to a playoff team. He would have to be put on waivers tomorrow to clear before the trade deadline, and then would have to sign with a playoff team, because you've got to be on an NHL roster at the trade deadline to be playoff eligible.
Which we have to kind of go into the case of like soft tampering a little bit.
But if the Canucks are putting him on waivers tomorrow, then that probably signals the fact that they don't believe that there is a team that's willing to trade for him. And at that point, why would you give up an asset if you know that he's going to be an unrestricted free agent and you can get him basically at league minimum for the rest of the season? So just something to consider as we work towards waivers. The list comes out at 11 o'clock Pacific each day. So we'll see if there are names like that around the National Hockey League, because I just think that's something to keep in the back of your mind. All right, we've got Adam Foote, so let's hear from the head coach his thoughts on a 6-4 loss to a very good Carolina Hurricanes hockey club.
Once we got used to what was happening to us after the first 10 minutes, we slowly, gained some confidence. You saw us settle in a little bit in the third, which was good to see.
It's been a tough go for your power play of late, but it looked good tonight. What do you think was the difference, or what allowed you to score a couple there?
Well, they've been working hard on it. I mean, they pressured out high, and Jake was good coming to the bumper for support just to relieve that pressure. We were able to get a couple. I think it was good for them, for their confidence, for sure.
Lankinen relieved midway through the second. What was your thought process on that decision?
I just wanted to change the energy. We'll go back and look. Maybe he could have had a couple of those, but just mainly just change the energy. I felt like didn't work at first, did it? Right? But the guys, what I liked is the fight they had throughout.
When a decision like that gets the desired effect, you do get the performance, right? The sort of change the energy performance from your group. But obviously the game winner comes on the first shot that Tolopilo faces. How do you sort of think through the risk reward of that decision?
Well, you already trained your mind for that. That didn't happen in 30 seconds before the decision. We go through, we have discussion with goalie coaches, we have discussion with our staff when we come across those situations. Nothing on lengths. I probably should have done it after the second goal, just to change it, because we were it wasn't on lengths, it was more on, we seemed a little bit out of sorts with the way they played. They play a real forced man-on-man everywhere. You can break them, which was nice to see that our game plan worked as the game went on. But, when you get set back with a couple goals that you think you should, and even Tolo coming in, he's got to have that short side one. That's a good lesson for him as well at the professional level. Like when you see them get a few quick ones in the second, got to get mentally ready. He might be going in, and I'm not saying he wasn't, maybe he did, but we'll have a discussion with that. But that's just being young, and you got to get ready. And you see how a slight mistake on a dump, and they picked it off, and then that one they came back down our face, but they were hungry there, though that one can't go in, but they were hungry knowing a young goalie came in. So we'll learn from that.
You shifted a lot of your forward lines tonight. What did you like about the changes, particularly with the Pettersson and Rossi line?
I liked Liam's speed for Rossi and Bess, right? His forecheck, he gets in there, pretty fast player, and it was nice to see. I thought Hoggy was coming with us. He was relentless the last few games, just not getting any luck. At times, even before that, he was just forcing it too much at certain areas, which I understand why, but it was nice to see him tonight. Petey set him up with a nice one, and I just thought the line was working well together. I liked the Bluger line too. I thought Sass gave him speed on the wing. It seemed like they started our forecheck for us. It seemed like every time they got out there, they were able to generate a good forecheck and keep pucks down in their end.
All right, there you go. Adam Foote talking a fair bit about the goaltending decision, and he makes the point that he doesn't have a crystal ball. He doesn't know that Tolopilo is going to give up the first one that he faces. Yeah. He had committed to making that decision. When he said, maybe I should have done it after the second one, does he mean the 2-2 goal or the second of the two quick ones? I wondered if he meant the 3-2 goal that sort of allowed Carolina to truly harness the momentum in the hockey game.
Yeah, it would have to have been that one. So I don't think the second goal of the hockey game was too bad on Lankinen. I think it was the one that came in right after that.
That was the one where Elias Pettersson wound up flat on his back somehow. I'm not sure what happened there.
But I think Adam Foote does have a point for Nikita Tolopilo a little bit, where, like I mentioned earlier when we talked about it, you always have to be ready.
Yep.
So if Nikita Tolopilo is watching the game, one goes in quickly, another one goes in quickly, and then another one, it's three, and you're like, okay, maybe now might be when, so I probably should, mentally prepare if there's anything that's going to happen. And then the fourth one goes in, and he's just like, well, okay, well, I'm guessing nothing's happening now.
Right, but I also wonder if the coach isn't, hey, Tolo,
if another one goes in
standby here.
Yeah.
So whatever the case, he agreed with us. Tolopilo should have had the Nick Ehlers short side shot, but he didn't, and that one turned out to be the game winner. All right, as we wrap things up here, we've got the Bet365 line of the night. People have waited long enough. What do you got for your line?
We are going to the Columbus Blue Jackets at home. Florida Panthers are in a bad way right now. I like the way the Blue Jackets play, especially on home ice. Tampa Bay Lightning over the Winnipeg Jets. I'm always going to take one of the best teams in the National Hockey League over the Winnipeg Jets. And I like the Islanders as a road dog in LA. They got stomped in Anaheim. And I like them to come back in a big way against the LA Kings. So put those three together. You get some decent odds there at plus 548. Whatever bets, never ordinary. Bet365. Download the app. Get in on the game. Use code NATION. Bet365. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly.
Travel day for the Canucks on Thursday, and then the trade deadline, noon Pacific, and beyond that, 5:30 start our time. For the Canucks and the Blackhawks on Friday, I find this fascinating. Maybe I'm alone, but the Canucks are in Chicago on Friday after the trade deadline. Abbotsford's at home on Friday. So the organization has 2 teams that it has to ice lineups for. Canucks can only have 23 players on the NHL roster. It's not like they can stash a couple extra guys on the plane to Chicago. But if they do make some of these trades that we've talked about, and they don't get bodies back in return, I'm curious what their lineup would look like. Normally they've had 2 extras. Evander Kane wasn't available tonight, so Sasson played. But right now they're running with 6 defensemen. They'll probably call up another D for the road trip because they're back-to-back games. But just something to think about as they try to, and obviously the priority is the NHL team.
Yeah.
But that Abbey lineup on Friday, if there's a sudden airlift and guys have to hustle from the Fraser Valley to get to Chicago to play for the National Hockey League team. Now, Manny's been through this all season long, so it won't come as any kind of surprise for him. But
Kalamazoo.
just something to think about when the team's on the road in and around the trade deadline. Management staying behind. They're setting up their war room in the cozy confines of Rogers Arena. So we'll hear from management on Friday after the deadline. They'll probably join the team out on the trip, maybe not for Friday night's game, but they'll be here in Vancouver. A team that the Canucks will face on Friday, the Blackhawks, just 2 wins in their last 11, so they are working their way back to the pack down there. As we said, one of the bottom 5 teams in the NHL fell 3-2 in overtime in Winnipeg on Tuesday night, 56 points, and they're not going to be in the playoffs yet again. So Connor Bedard's going to have to wait another season to get his first look at the Stanley Cup playoffs. 25 goals, 57 points, doing his thing. He doesn't lead the team in goals, though. Tyler Bertuzzi having a sort of quietly good season with 26 for the Blackhawks, including a hat-trick against the Canucks earlier this year. And then there's this massive drop-off offensively to guys like Andre Burakovsky, Ryan Donato, Teuvo Teravainen, Frank Nazar, Ilya Mikheyev, old friend Ilya Mikheyev. Of course, old friend Jason Dickinson no longer plays for the Chicago Blackhawks.
In Edmonton.
They've been busy with the Connor Murphy deal as well. Bedard is playing with Burakovsky and a rookie by the name of Ryan Green. And it just I look at a Tyler Toffoli in San Jose and just think, like, the Blackhawks got to do better for Bedard. They've got to find a guy, a proven goal scorer. Burakovsky has, the chops at the NHL level, but Ryan Green's got, I think, 8 goals and 22 points. So that's what Connor Bedard is left to play with right now for the Chicago Blackhawks team. Spencer Knight has developed into a good story there.
Yeah.
Like, he's having a really nice season. Wins and losses may not show it, but on a weak Chicago team, he's rolling with a 262 goals against average and 908 save percentage. Has 3 shutouts already this year. And this surprises me. When I looked at this earlier today, I had to double check. The Blackhawks are the best penalty killing team in the National Hockey League at 85.9%. Now, they're going to see a Canucks power play that's revved up with a couple of goals coming off this one tonight against Carolina. But Chicago's given up 26 power play goals on the season. The Canucks, after giving up 2 to the Hurricanes, have given up 54. So the Canucks have given up more than twice as many power play goals as the best penalty killing unit in the National Hockey League. It's the Canucks, it's the Blackhawks. It's after the trade deadline on Friday. We'll see what both teams do between now and then, what their lineups look like. But regardless, you'll be back with me.
Yep.
And we will have lots to talk about. And you're going to have a fair bit to talk about. You've got your DFO Insiders trade preview.
Look at that.
You're jumping everybody's looking at the deadline on Friday. Murph and Dave are like, no, we're going Thursday.
Yeah, we're going Friday too, but we're definitely going Thursday. It'll be fun. I think we'll have a couple guests. Again, just literally shooting the shit. See what happens. There might be some deals that break.
Look
it
at
should
you there.
Be a fun
You got
show.
the phone. You are in.
That's your screensaver now.
Well, I don't know that I'm going through. I threatened to make that my screensaver.
But yeah, tune in if you want. It'll be fun.
4:00 Pacific time.
Yep.
Check it out online. All right. That's going to do it. An eventful day and an eventful night. The Canucks trade Tyler Myers, get a couple of draft picks, and then they go out and look like they were going to get buried again, but showed a little fight and some pushback that we just haven't seen nearly enough of from the Vancouver Canucks all season long. 6-4 is the final score. Jacob Lazar is our technical producer, and we thank him for his assistance getting us up and running and keeping us online. For Irf, I'm Jeff. We'll do it again Friday after the Canucks are in Chicago. Thanks so much for checking out this episode of Rink Wide Vancouver.